Guys, Bill here, and in this video I'm going to talk about using dark pool levels as support and resistance and trading around them, how I find them, and how I utilize them in trading every day. And I have a couple examples. We're going to start with SPY, and then I'm going to show you another ticker I played last week where the dark pool information was very helpful for me. And the cool thing about these dark pool levels is there's times when they're at places on a chart where maybe you wouldn't know to expect support or resistance based on other traditional ways of marking that, using daily levels, and things like that historically, EMAs or any other kind of indicators or anything like that. I found that sometimes these dark pool levels show up in spots maybe in between areas you might have had mapped out, and having that information and being able to utilize it and trade around it can be very beneficial and kind of give you an edge of what's going on, quote unquote, behind the scenes. What are market makers doing? What are these big institutions? Where are they placing their money? And we see here on SPY, I'm using TradyTix. If you guys have followed me for a while, I use TradyTix for a lot of my data analysis and flow and things like this. And here we are on SPY's dark pool page. All right. The first thing we're looking at here is a chart with all these different dark pool orders mapped out. And one thing I do is I look at these levels every day after close. That's when the information comes in. And then I take the biggest levels. So for SPY, it varies by ticker, right? Because of the different size and everything. But for SPY, I'm only really going to chart things that are $1 billion and up. And you can see here on SPY, there's quite a few $1 billion levels. And also, one thing to keep in mind is sometimes you'll see things like, there's two orders right there, both at the same price, 402.10. So that's really like almost 2 billion, over 2 billion in orders there. And you'll notice this kind of thing pop up once in a while, 407.60, 407.40. So that's, over 5 billion of dark pool right around in those, in that little zone. So I'll kind of mark a split the difference maybe I would put 407.50 on my chart here as a dark pool level. And basically I'm using them as support and resistance levels. And you can kind of tell before I even dive into my Webull charts, if you just look at this chart, these levels are kind of mapped out for you. And you'll notice that in areas where there's not a lot of dark pool activity, price seems to move a little smoother through. So you can see we kind of trended up nice in between these major levels, trended back down. We had big sticks up, smooth moves all the way up to here. We had a nice little trend up through here, a nice little trend back down. But in these areas where there's lots of lines, lots of dark pool, look at the chop. There's a lot of chop. Get up into this little area here, it gets choppy. All right, so you can sort of see, even before we start to look at, maybe charts that are a little prettier than this one or whatever, more that you're used to looking to when you trade every day, you can kind of see the value in understanding where these big pools of money are. And if you're not familiar with what dark pools are and the basic stuff, there's tons of videos out there that can explain that for you. I'm not going to waste my time on that. We're going to talk about using these levels to trade. So the first level I want to talk about, the main level on SPY, is the biggest one, and it's this $5 billion level at 407.60. You can see it came in on November 30th. So here's November 30th. We had a big run up this day, right up into this 407, 50, 60 area. I think we closed the day at 407, 80, 407. It's hard to say. But right around this dark pool, that's what you'll notice is, this data comes in after close, and it's usually when there's a big dark pool print, it's usually within a few cents of the actual place we closed. And at this point, I'm preparing for this next day. I'm marking this level at 407.60 with a thick dark blue dashed line on my chart as a dark pool level. And what I'm going to be watching for that next day is SPY going to use this as a launch pad to maybe see new highs? Or is it going to actually end up kind of failing it and it's going to become resistance? And that's pretty much what happened. So we closed right around this level. We gapped below it in pre-market. Before we opened, we were up over it, but it didn't take long for us to flush under it. and reject it several times and close under it. And then the next day in pre-market, we consolidated under it. Huge dump down in pre-market. Tried to work our way back up, but again, rejected it one more time. And after that, for several days, SPY trended down. This was a very strong level. Again, 5 billion. And once you play with these more, you'll realize how big the level actually is in relation to the average dark pool size. So, I track everything on SPY that's $1 billion and up, but 5 billion is very big, all right, on SPY. And you'll kind of get a feel for different tickers that you watch, what's actually big and what's not. And try to only mark the levels that are very significant. Otherwise, your charts will get pretty cluttered quickly. But that's an example on SPY, okay? And you can see I have some other dark dash blue lines here, and these are other dark pools from various dates that I just kind of keep updated until, we're no longer near any of them and I can take them away. And also, sometimes you'll notice that they disappear. So the next day you refresh the dark pool page and that dark pool is gone. They took it away. So I'll take it off my chart. Let's look at an example of an individual ticker, like a non-ETF. I traded this stock on Friday. It was one of my top watches. I posted on Twitter about it. And we'll pull it up on the dark pool page on TradyTix. And we'll scroll down to the dark pool area here. And again, we can kind of see, where these gaps in the dark pool are and how the price moves pretty well within them, and then things get really tight when you get into these levels where there's lots of dark pools. But what I noticed on SE here, and this is a stock that I had never traded before, I just saw a lot of great flow coming in on it, bullish flow, and I liked the chart too. So like I do with all the stocks I'm narrowing down to be my top focuses for the next day, I run them through the dark pool scanner and I look to see if there's anything interesting going on in the dark pools. And there was with this stock. You can see here that the average level is about maybe 5 to 10 million. All right, we have a 7, a 4, a 4. Then we have 90 million. Okay? That's huge, especially relative to the rest of the levels here, where there's a 50 down there, but they're almost all 5 to 10. And then we get 90. Okay? That'd be like a 20 million on SPY. It'd be insane. Okay? So I saw this and I said 60-50. This is a huge spot. So I was coming into the day. This is the day I traded it. I was coming in, I marked 650 and I saw that we were up here in pre-market and I told myself, if we come down to this dark pool and hold it, that's where I'm going to want to go long. And look at what happened. Okay. Perfect wick down, close above, little move up. It tests it one more time. Closes back up above, and this was another key level for me too, this fib, and then a nice move on calls there. Those went over 100% on Friday, all right? So these dark pool levels, 650, I might not have thought about it that much if I was just looking at the chart. I had my fib here, and I probably would have made that my key level, and maybe it would have worked out just as well. I would have looked for a close above this fib and it wicked below and closed over. But having this extra, confluence here of this dark pool level kind of created a little zone. And I was able to really focus in on that, and it gave me extra conviction in this play that I might not have had otherwise. All right. So that's the dark pool levels and how I use them every day, mostly on SPY. But once I've narrowed down my watch list to a few other tickers outside of SPY, I make sure to pull them up in the dark pools and try to find any interesting levels, especially if they're super big relatively to the other dark pools that have printed, or if they're really fresh. I kind of give those ones the, advantage on my chart. But that's really it, guys. If you have any questions about dark pools, the levels, or anything like that, leave a comment, let me know, send DM on Twitter, and I'll help you out. Thanks.